Welcome to our Impact Software webinar. My name is Stephanie Williams. I am the Senior Product Application Specialist for our Impact products. The purpose of today's webinar is to let you know about the changes coming to the Impact software used on your 9340 or 9350 drop tower. During the webinar, the participants will be muted. However, if you have a question, please raise it using the chat tool located in the lower right corner on your screen. Time permitting, I will answer them at the end of the webinar, and if we run out of time, I will reply via email. So I think when we talk about things like this, the best place to start is, where are we now? So if we start from where we are now, you're using Visual Impact as your software, which is a module in the Chaos View platform. The platform and the mod software were designed in the 90s, late 90s, when Microsoft DOS was still pretty much the preferred operating system, but Windows was beginning to make a run at it. Over the last 10 years, we've heard from you, our customers, about the software. And some of what we've heard is that the software training takes too long. It's too complicated to learn and to more specifically get new operators up and trained on it. You have a lot of really good modules for analysis tools, but you need a lot of expertise to use them, so they're complicated. The test cycle's too slow, and a lot of times there are some dead moments. We don't know what's going on, if anything. When something does go wrong, or like a loose connection or whatnot, we see 3 red dots come up and tell us that there's an error, and we get an error code, but it's something that's vague, and we don't understand, nor do we know how to fix what the error is. So not only have we heard you, but we've also listened to you. And you know what? We agree. It's time for a change. So with that being said, let me introduce you to Bluehill Impact. Bluehill Impact is built on Instron's platform, the Bluehill platform. And it is a new drop tower for our software. It is a new software for our drop towers. For those of you already familiar with Bluehill, the key features in the Impact suite include a software designed for touchscreen interaction, large touch points with an intuitive workflow in which we've thought in terms of is the user, the operator, going to interface with the most. A simplified operation that is easy to learn, making it easy to train new operators and getting them up and using the equipment faster than before. This ease of use that allows the operator to run the test with a minimal amount of effort can equate to an increase in your laboratory efficiency and throughput. And we think it's a software that's, quite frankly, simpler, smarter, and safer. So I'd like to demonstrate this software to you now. You can have your operators up and running tests just this simply. A few clicks of the button, and we're already into the test mode, as you see. Some things I'd like to call your attention to as we're scrolling through. Note the color band that changes as the system frame status changes. We started with blue to indicate that the system was ready to be set up. Green, the system is set up. Yellow, orange, the system is in movement, is doing something. And red, the system is testing. Note too as well, the console buttons at the top of the screen, always giving you an indication that something's happening, so you are never sitting wondering what's going on. As well, the status bar at the bottom of the frame lets you know exactly what's happening, what you're doing. I'd also like to call your attention to the fact I'm now on the 4th sample specimen in my sample. Not once have I left the testing environment to be able to look at my test results or compare my curves or results. I'm remaining in the testing environment the entire time as the curves are overlaying on top of each other and as the results are coming up into the field. If I have a question, I need to have some help, or I'm curious about something, help is as easy as clicking on the help icon. I'm taken straight to the screen, to the information about the screen that I was on. And within that, I can then choose to go and look at further details on information. If I need to know something about the system, simply click on the system icon. I can immediately see events and I can look and see, do I have a problem or what's the system set up for? Just this easily with this few clicks, your operators can be up, running tasks, saving data, and generating reports. So what is behind this simplicity? Well, if testing is the first button in the progression, creation of the test method is the next. So within the test method, when we open this, what you'll see is we've created in the top part of your screen, we've created a library of default templates. These default templates are designed around the most commonly common types of impact tests that are run, as well as within each of these templates, we've included the most common test standards. And by that, I mean, we have included information that the test standard would require you to include in the test. If you'd like to find out information about, well, what exactly am I looking at? Click on the information icon. We pop up with a method preview in which we define what are you allowed to do, what kind of test are you doing, what information can you change or do you need to set, and we'll include information about fixturing that may be required and options that you can have with that fixturing. Creating a method as easily as clicking here. Now, some things I'd like to point out at this screen that you'll see throughout as I show you some of these other tabs here. I'd like to point out anywhere where there is a gray pencil, not only can you enter information into the field, but as well, you can change the prompt that we've provided and you can create your own. Pull down menus, anywhere where you can change a setting. We've provided the most commonly used settings as options. Simply click and you can include it. General tab, general information. Moving over to the next tab, our inputs. Here we start with the sample. These would be those inputs information that would pertain to the entire group of specimens about to be tested, so the entire sample. We've included those items that we feel are the most commonly used. If there are some other inputs perhaps that you'd like to include, simply click on input, create your input name, and add the input, and it will come up at the appropriate point to be included. Within the specimens, these are the inputs that would pertain to each individual specimen within the sample. Here is where we can change information about the thickness, the shape. This is all information that would apply to each specimen. Again, inputs can be created to be added. And in addition, information such as break types or what does the appearance of the sample look like at the end of task can be included as well. Stepping over measurements, this is where you will pick the top that's been defined to use in the method that you're creating. Information here, you'll see the tops are in a pull down. Simply pick which top you want to use. The configuration will come up over here on the right. you will see the top model number as well as the insert that's installed and information about the top itself. Included as well are the calculations and more information that you'd want to have that's coming off of the top. So things such as calculated velocities and energies, these are included in the test reports. If this is something you don't want, you think, oh, I don't want the velocity, you can opt to turn it off. We'll let you know that what will happen if you disabled that particular calculated measurement. Calculations. This was something that we never really allowed you the option to look at easily before, but this lets you simply change how are you getting to the information. For example, we'll go calculate peak from first point, we'll go back, or you can change and you can say, well, I would like to go in the opposite direction to find it from backwards from the peak. Calculations that can be included. These are the calculations that are available. These calculations are based on the standard, the type of test that you picked. Again, this is something to note here. This is information that you bring from the left to the right. It will be included as something that's included in reports and something that you can enter as well. On the far right, notice that we have included some information about exactly what it is happening, and if it's a calculation that you can vary or you can change settings on, these are included as well. Test control. Test control is the equivalent of tab 2B on visual impulse. Here is where first with the instrument, we define information such as the cup holder, the mass being used, if you're adding additional weight, if you've included the top extender. I'd like to call your attention here to that if you do have custom cup holders, as some customers do, these can now be added very easily into the software. As well, information about the top. Not only as before, we just used to supply you with the mass of the top and the length. Now, if you look to the right, we have a diagram illustrating what does the top look like. This is a visual cue for you to ensure, do I have the right, oh, is this the correct top that I want to use? No, I didn't want to use this insert. I can now come back to my measurements tab. I can select the other top that has the insert that I want, and you'll see the diagram changes. In addition, the information about the support type and options such as clamping or rebound. Within the test control is how we set up the drop point control. This is as it's always been. You can choose to control via velocity, drop height, or energy. And as always, when you pick one, the other items will change as they always have. Sampling. This I think is incredibly a game changer to me. Always before, this was tab 4 in visual. This was where you had to decide, well, how many data points do I want to use out of the 65,500? What frequency do I want them put down at? So what's the sample? How long, does the time, do I think the test is going to take? What do I set for trigger mechanism? What do I set for offset and for the trigger number of points to keep beforehand? What we have done is we've optimized those settings, and we've optimized them based on the anticipated failure mode of your material. So if you know your material is always going to have a ductile failure, you can select the impact duration to be designed around a ductile failure mode. And as you'll see, the summary on the right will let you know how many points we're going to acquire, what's the total test time from the start to the end that the data acquisition window will be open, and what's the trigger method that we're using, as well as how many pre-trigger points do we have set. If you have a material that you're not sure of, choose unknown. Again, we'll optimize the system, and the only thing you need worry about setting is the load range. Where do I anticipate maximum load being using the top that I've selected? If you are comfortable with your settings within, Visual Impact, and you'd like to just maintain those, come over, choose custom, and you can then define the sampling frequency and the test time and the range and all of that based on what you already have in place. As well, if you'd like to change the trigger mechanisms, perhaps you want to do the transducer signal, this is where you would set that up as a custom. This ability to set this and have this already set for you will ensure that you get your entire test event from the time the test starts till the time the test ends. Our results tab, this is as the available results that you will have that you can include in your reports. These are determined based upon the type of test that you included. With any of these lists, you can pick and choose to bring information over as easily as moving it over. If you realize that there is something perhaps that you don't want, simply click, send it back. Or if it's in the wrong location, you don't like where that is, you can move the location. Again, information about where it's used, how you set it on the right. I want to take a look at what this is going to look like on my screen or in my table. Go to Format. I can take a quick check. There are 2 results tables that you can set up. Graphs and data. This is what is a graph going to look like on the screen while I'm working with it, looking at it, as well as what could the graph look like, will the graph look like in a printed report. You can include up to 2 different graphs, and within each of these graphs, they can be defined to be one of 3 types of graphs. The traditional XY, where I define X and Y, a multi-axis where I can add secondary, Y curves, information on the Y, or we have the control chart that we can include as well. So any of these can be defined. You can make graph 1, XY, graph 2 could be the control. As well, I can take a quick look on my report tab to get a feel for what would my report look like based on things that I've set. I've defined back in the 2 other tabs. I can have a look here and say, oh, I have everything I want. No, I don't have what I want. And I can go back and make changes. Operator inputs. Operator inputs are selected from the available inputs, again, based on the type of specimen or default template that you've used. These are inputs where the operator you can have the operator include information. It's an input where you want to have included in the report. If you want the operator to be able to change the information, have the tab, the slider bar to the left. If it's something where I don't want the operator to be able to change the name of the method, move it over to view only access. Again, things can be brought in simply by moving it over, and I can make it so that they can only view the specimen ID. Layouts. This is what do you want the screen to look like. You can have two layouts. We have them defined as two. That is the testing environment. So as you saw earlier in the demo of the testing, how did I have the screen laid out? We have some profiles that we've set in here as some defaults. You can, of course, create your own custom profile, choose how you want the screen to look. Not only can you set the screen up for your testing environment, but also in the review environment. You can go and define the profile that you want used. So our next tab is our Outputs tab. What's going to happen when I'm done with this testing? What do I want the software to do in terms of output? So this is where you would set up what the report template, basic profile would look like, that you want it saved as a PDF. We have a default file location for where all the data and the information will be saved. If you opt to move that off of the local default, you can override it simply by toggling, and it will ask you to point to where you want it to go. In addition, export tables are set up here. You can create two exports. You might want to set one export up to be very simple, keep some basic data, save it on the local file. But second export, you may opt to set up and have that moved to a different location and saved somewhere else, on a server somewhere. Something to note, I'd like to point out with the report setup, something we had heard was that traditionally you had only been able to select the report template to be portrait. We heard that. Now you'll see that you can set your template to become a landscape orientation. As we noted before, report is the report wizard. We'll walk you through what to set up in your report, what it can look like. You can do a quick check. Again, do I have what I want? Will it lay out the way I want it to look like? And I simply, as with the wizard before, walk through. I can change my logo to be my company logo. What do I want to include in the body? What's this information here? What do I want the graph to look like? Which graph do I want included? And then as well, what information on the footer? So that covers these tabs from inputs to outputs. Now, something if you are familiar with Bluehill, you know about, and that is creating a prompted test. So when we're creating the test methods, we can turn them in to be a prompted test. So what is a prompted test? A prompted test, I like to say, is the equivalent of having the testing wizard right there with the operator. Making a test method be a prompted test ensures that the operator will enter all of the information that you want to have entered, because you are going to define based on the inputs and the operator inputs, what do you want them to include and fill out. It's what you've included there that will be driven. So to set it to be a prompted, I turn on run as prompted. Across the top here, you'll see a diagram illustration showing at what point what steps will be brought in. The two steps you cannot exclude would be the start of the testing and the end of the testing. So the test is going to take place once we've started the test. But at the start of the sample, as you see, I have it toggled on the right, gives me details about what will happen at the start of the sample. Before the test, I'll enter specimen details. Again, what type of details could I enter? After the test, what would happen after the test? As they say, testing is going to take place after the test. Analysis portion, what will happen under analysis, and sample review, finishing the sample. I may opt in my method. I don't need the operator to review the sample. I'm not going to have them enter any notes. I'll do analysis via the analysis tab. I'm not concerned with seeing the workspace after the test. So now I've defined my test method. I've defined it's a prompted test. It's been created as a prompted test. And so anytime this method is opened and used to test a sample, it will be prompted and the operator will be walked through. So just that easily, we've created a test method and I've walked you through. So I have some more surprises, I shouldn't say surprises, I have some more information I'd like to share with you about the capabilities of Bluehill Impact. But to do that, we need to take a step back into our PowerPoint and pick up from there. Calibration alerts. The top, as you know, is the load cell, and that's the heart of the data acquisition system. That's where you are collecting information about the force that's occurring, how your material is resisting the impact. Tops, like any load cell, should be recalibrated yearly. In the past, there was nothing to indicate to you that your top may be due for calibration, with the exception of looking on the cal file, the printed sheet, to see when was it due, or looking on the sticker that's on the top to indicate when it was calibrated and when it's due. Calibration information is loaded into the software when we load the top into the software. So now what we can do with Bluehill is we're able to let you know 2 months prior to your calibration expiring that you're coming up, the calibration is going to be due. We do this, we have a little red warning icon that comes up. When you click on the information tab, we'll let you know that the calibration is about to expire or that it has expired. And as I said, we do this, start this warning, these alerts, 2 calendar months before you're due for the calibration to expire. This should allow you plenty of time, sufficient amount of time to schedule a downtime in the lab where you could return the top for recalibration. Or if you have multiple tops, say perhaps multiple versions of the 22 kilonewton strain gauge top, will allow you to prepare to swap over and use the second top when the first top is out for calibration. We will not, we won't stop you from using a method that has a top that's calibration has expired, nor will we stop testing if the calibration has expired. We simply want to make sure that you're aware that the top is coming up for calibration or that its calibration has expired and you should get it back to have it recalibrated. Something else that we have worked with improving is if you have a thermostatic chamber, is we've now made the setup simpler to use and with a clearer and more definitive, intuitive interface. We've optimized settings in the chamber in terms of transitory time and conditional time, so that you're aware, always knowing what the chamber is doing. In addition, we've also made sure that we show you what the chamber is doing. The operation is proceeding, how soon before I can begin testing when I've reached the chamber, and now I know that I'm at the environment that I can begin testing. Something we've included, as I made a note of earlier, we've now included digital filters in the software. What we've done is include the 2 most commonly used in the automotive industry, which are the CFC and Butterworth filter. These are handy in the automotive industry for those testing finished products, say airbag covers, where they'd like to attach perhaps accelerometers or other third-party devices. So with the filters, you can apply them, as I noted earlier, either in the test method but most commonly they're used in the analysis phase, and you can access these simply by clicking on the filter icon when you're in the analysis and you have your test open. You then are taken to the dialog to where you can choose which digital filter you'd like to apply and make the appropriate settings for that filter. This can be applied to a single specimen in the sample, or it can be applied to the entire sample itself. Error codes. So error codes will now clearly state the exact error, where it has occurred, in what part of the testing cycle it has occurred. It will also provide you with 1 or 2 steps recommended to clear the error code. This should, in the event you do have an error, should let you clear the error quickly and get your operators and get your system back up and testing. Safer security functions. We are employing Bluehill's platform security functions so that you can track whoever is running tests and editing methods. Each person logging into the software has to have their own username and passcode. This is set through the admin tab, and there are 3 levels of security. First, the administrator. The administrator can perform all tasks with the software. The first user who is created on the software will be the administrator by default. Next to the administrator, behind the administrator, is the lab manager. The lab manager can essentially perform all functions of the administrator, with the exception of the lab manager cannot create a new user. That is only the right of the administrator to create new users. Operators can perform new tests. They can open samples for analysis. They have limited access to the admin in that they can go in and change their user passcode. This is so that the administrators don't have to be responsible for updating passcodes. And if your company perhaps states that every 30 days or 90 days, operator passcodes have to be updated, it lets the user go in and do that themselves. Something else that we feel is safer: data, how we save data. With Visual Impact, you had to, when you completed testing, you had to click in test. Until you clicked in test, if you had, for some reason, the system stopped or somebody shut something down, inadvertently, you lost your data. With Bluehill Impact, that will not happen. We save every test as soon as it has been completed. The test is saved, so you should never lose data due to an unexpected shutdown in your system. So what does all this lead to with the performance of Bluehill Impact? Productivity. What I have here on the screen now are 2 photos from a video, where within the video that we made, the 2 tests, the testing was set up to be exactly the same. We used the same mass, the same test standards, the same velocity, same samples. The differences are the system on the left is being run by Bluehill Impact with the operator dashboard and DOS. The system on the right is Visual Impact with the DOS 64 and Visual Impact. As you can see, running the same test with the Bluehill Impact, we have a quicker testing cycle time. It has been improved by over 20%. We can send you this video link. We have it's saved. We can share that with you. Just simply ask your sales team and we can provide the link to you. What we feel is that obviously this increased and improved cycle time should lead to more efficiency in your lab and greater throughput. So we've been talking about Bluehill Impact. I'd now like to introduce another product that's new for us that we're very excited about, and that is our dashboard and Dashboard Plus DOS. So essentially the dashboard includes a 23-inch touchscreen all-in-one computer with Bluehill Impact loaded on it. It's a dedicated controller, and it can be mounted onto the DOS itself, which will allow for a cleaner workspace with a reduced footprint. You'll no longer have to have a bench long enough to handle your DOS, your computer monitor, your keyboard, your mouse, all of that. This is all now in this one small package. The DOS itself, the new DOS that comes with the dashboard, we have redesigned it to include some embedded connections and dedicated connectors for high-speed cameras. So we've seen an increase in use in high-speed cameras, specimen measuring devices, as well as a dedicated connector for a LAN. You may want to consider the dashboard and DOS if you have an older DOS, such as our DOS 16,000 or the DOS Junior or 8,000, as those are not supported on Bluehill Impact. So if you're going to have to upgrade your DOS anyway, you may want to consider the Dashboard Plus DOS. So upgrade options. I hope you're excited about what you've seen and some of what I've shown and discussed. And so now we're ready to discuss, how do I go forward? How do I get this software? There are numerous options and configurations available. Right now I'm going to talk about the two that we are the most popular. Software plus the DOS with the dashboard. As I noted before, this is ideal for those customers who may need to upgrade their DOS anyway. This will get you the new DOS with an all-in-one Windows 10 touchscreen computer and Bluehill Impact software. Other option, if you have a DOS 64 and you already have a Windows 10 computer, you can choose to upgrade just your software. In between these two options, we do have, as I said, numerous other options available. One option could be you have a DOS 64 you're happy with, but you need to upgrade to a Windows 10 computer. We can offer the dashboard, all-in-one computer with Bluehill Impact installed on a pedestal mount that would sit on the lab bench. Whatever option, upgrade path you choose, the upgrade quote that you receive will include obviously the Bluehill software, firmware upgrades that will need to take place to the DOS, possibly take place to the DOS and or tower. And it also will include installation and training. It will be included in the pricing. So Bluehill Impact, the software, the demonstration, as I noted, I touched upon two of our key tabs and some highlights there. If there's anything in the software that you would like to see, if you'd like to see a video demonstration, we can offer video demonstrations via Skype. They can be scheduled. Please reach out to either your sales team and ask to set a demonstration up, or you can reach out to myself if you're here in the Americas, or Alessandro for European customers. What we ask is that you please provide either your sales team member, or if you're reaching out directly to myself or Alessandro, please provide us with at least 2 to 3 days and times that would work best for you, so that we have options to fit into our schedule. So in conclusion, I hope that you will agree. Bluehill Impact is a software for drop towers that is simpler, smarter, and safer. Thank you for your time.